March. Forward. March.
Mr. Aaron Ward will now come forward and give the invocation.
Lord God, we come before you today, and we just thank you for this man, Jonathan, who has sacrificed so much to be in this position that he was in, Lord. We thank you for his years of service, not only to you, but to this country and to all of us here, Lord. I pray that you would bless his life, Lord, as he moves forward, as he moves into something different now. I pray that you would just bless him and his family after all that they have sacrificed. And thank you for his wife who has stood beside him as well. We're just so thankful, Lord, for you. And we just pray that you would just show your grace and mercy and blessings upon him and his family. In Jesus' name, amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We are fortunate to have a number of distinguished and special guests with us today, along with family and friends, present and virtual. Please hold your applause until everyone has been recognized. Attending in person are Lieutenant Colonel Smith's wife, Allison Smith, Lieutenant Colonel Smith's parents, Melvin and Durana Smith, Lieutenant Colonel Smith's siblings, Tiffany Marshall and Major Retired Nathan Smith, and their spouses, Liebert Marshall and Catherine Smith, Lieutenant Colonel Smith's niece and nephew, Kyla and Lincoln Smith, Lieutenant Colonel Smith's in-laws, James and Catherine Vinciquera. Distinguished visitors in attendance in person and virtually are Colonel Raj Agrawal, Commander, Mission Delta II, Colonel Gina Peterson, Deputy Commander, Mission Delta II, Mr. Jeffrey Weishart, Director of Mission Integration, Mission Delta II, Senior Executive Servant Mrs. Karen Pound, Deputy Director of Strategy, Policy and Plans, NORAD and U.S. Northern Command, Colonel Christopher Fernangle, Director of U.S. Space Command's Commanders Action Group, Colonel Scott Munn, Director of Mission Integration for the National Reconnaissance Office and U.S. Space Command, Chief Carmen Monique Pogue, Command Senior Enlisted Leader, Space Training and Readiness Command, Chief Martha Burkhead, Commander Senior Enlisted Leader, Space Base Delta I, Chief Marlene Locks, Commander Senior Enlisted Leader, Mission Delta IV, Chief Brandon Belmore, Senior Enlisted Leader, Mission Delta II staff. Lieutenant Colonel Smith, his family, and Mission Delta II would like to thank all directors, commanders, chiefs, friends, coworkers, family members, and everyone attending online for sharing this special occasion. Your presence is appreciated, and we are honored to have you here. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Colonel Benjamin C. Oakes, the presiding official for this retirement ceremony.
All right, thank you, everybody that's here in person and those of you that had an opportunity to dial in online. One of the great things about working and serving in the military are these milestones of a career. You start out with your commissioning or your enlistment. You go through promotions, changes of command if you're fortunate and successful enough to do so, and retirement in a way that you don't really get a chance to do outside of uniform. This is a great opportunity for us to really appreciate all that Jay-Z, who has meant so much to all of us throughout our careers and throughout our personal lives, and honor all the amazing work that he's done, all the people he's touched, and all the enduring impacts that he has made on our services during his time, up through his retirement. And most importantly, we also get to celebrate where he's going to be going on to next, because that is another one of the beauties of serving in the military, is that retirement is hardly ever the end of working. You get to continue to serve in another capacity as you move on, and I'm really excited for where he's going to be going coming up next. So we're going to go ahead and start at the beginning. Hope you guys are comfortable. It's got a lot of remarks on this guy. He's done a lot of things. You're going to see a couple themes, and I think all of you know Jay-Z, and therefore you know quite well the type of person he is. You're going to find out that he is one of the most tenacious individuals you'll ever find. He's a brilliant person to work with, both for his ability to learn new things and adapt quickly, but also for his wit and his ability to find humor in almost everything. He makes every workplace he is part of better. You're also going to find that he is the king of tasks that require, look, I don't know how to do it, I just want you to figure it out. So we're going to see that one throughout. So let's start in Hamilton, Ohio, just outside of Cincinnati. Jay-Z has a brilliant plan in life. He's going to hang out with his friends as his career. Dad and Mom had a little bit of an issue with that one. They may have bribed him to go in. Bribe was the word that Jay-Z used. I think there might have been some stronger verbs involved in encouraging him to go to college and enter the service. So coming out of Hamilton, Ohio, he, of course, is aware of paper factories, and so he figured he'd go study paper science, understand the rigors of how to case cans of soda and whether you can fold a piece of paper more than 7 times. You can't. He quickly realized this was not his future, and he knew that he was going to be going out to become a lieutenant and that there wasn't much paper science in the Air Force. He did get a wonderful opportunity while he was out there. So one of the things that ROTC cadets get to do is you get to go and do a shadow program where you go to an active duty unit and you get to see a real mission and see how it's like and see if that's what you want to do when you grow up. He went down to what at the time was Patrick Air Force Base, East Coast launch. Found out that space was what he wanted to do. So when he went back and he finished up his commissioning program, he put down in his dream sheet, I want to go to space. Back then, the 13S career field, which is space operations, was the space and missile operations. And everybody that signed up for it, and everybody that's got the badge knows this is how it works. You sign up for space and missiles. And the Air Force says, thank you for joining space and missiles. So that is where he went. He ended up going to Malmstrom Air Force Base, good choice on that one. He went to the 564th Missile Squadron, not so great of a choice. So Deuce was the last surviving member of a different missile weapon system. It was big, it was spacious, it had lots of room, it also had weird terms that they used, and it was going to close in just a couple years. And so he went there, trained up on a weapon system that already had its death sentence signed, and immediately, as he was there, they said, all right, if you have been here for more than 2 years, we're going to PCS you on to another job. Anything less than that, you got to retrain on the other weapon system, stay here in Malmstrom, and we're going to tack an extra year onto your assignment. So 2 years was the cutoff. Jay-Z had been there for 22 months, I think. So he just missed the cutoff. Managed to stay, had to go retrain, and of course he got selected for the 490th Missile Squadron, which is the Farsiders. Their closest site is a little over an hour, and their furthest one is about 2.5 hours away. So a wonderful way to start your day, to drive for 2.5 hours through the snowy wilderness that is Montana, and then go down into an underground silo for a while. And it's not the underground silo he was used to. All of a sudden he went from having a hot tub and a gym that was down there to having a space where you could stand like this and touch both sides of the capsule at the same time, and don't look at the carpet, because it's been there for 60 years and never been replaced. So now he excelled. So as a brilliant member that he is, he did go in and understand things in a way that most missileers don't. So a lot of missileers, you understand, I do a step, I get my banana. That's what you do, and a lot of missileers don't think about why they're doing it, how it all interconnects. Jay-Z's mind works differently. A little mind of metal and wheels connecting together and trying to figure out how everything goes together. And one of the ways that you can really express that is there is an Olympic competition. At the time, we called it Guardian Challenge, amongst all the missile bases to see who's the best missile nerd. And so he won as best missile nerd to represent the wing, him and his crew partner. And then they go on and they take on the other dorks from the other missile wings, and they see who is the best of the missile wings. Is the best, right here. 2008, if you drive up, the wing was awarded the Blanchard Trophy, which wing commanders absolutely love, because that is something that is definitely a little star on their resume, that Jay-Z got that wing commander a Blanchard Trophy. And if you drive into Malmstrom now, it'll list the years. They're very proud of the years that they won the Blanchard Trophy. So 2008, let's do this guy. So the reason there's not one for 2000 or 2001 is do this guy, so I apologize. 2002 has been Laden's fault, so the reason there's not one there. So anyway, so he moved on, proved to be truly successful, went on to go and become an instructor, mastered kind of the trainer view, essentially was leading the scripts department, so writing those rides to teach new missileers on how to do their job, and absolutely knocking it out of the park. In fact, he was a hard worker. A lot of us get out of here with 5 to 6 evals. He ended up coming out here with 10. And the last one was actually after he had taken his last alert. They said, yeah, before you PCS, we got one more thing for you. We need you to come in and get one. Which the reason they did that is because this guy didn't have a single error on anything except for the Guardian Challenge ride when he was dealing with a fire. The cops were probably had already been shot, and you were currently going to war with Russia, China, and North Korea at the same time. So that was the one time that you were allowed to get errors. But all the other evaluations, he managed to get out of there and not do it. So the most important thing that happened, though, had nothing to do with missiles. So about halfway through his assignment there, he started engaging with a young lady that was back in Ohio, and they started communicating, and he started visiting, and things started getting serious. And all of a sudden, as happens to a lot of us in uniform, you start seeing that I've got to do a permanent change of station here pretty soon. I'm going to have to move somewhere else, and the Air Force doesn't move girlfriends. They don't move fiancés, they move spouses. So he's got a serious person that he wants to spend the rest of his life with. They set a wedding date as he's getting ready to go to his next assignment. Fortunately, they managed to get that wedding taken care of, and I think the honeymoon too, before the actual PCS came, although the Air Force tried its best to keep that from happening. So, and they ended up moving out to Cape Cod. So Cape Cod Air Station at the time, it's a home of a 10-story tall radar that's there to look for missiles that are coming in over the horizon to the United States, part of our advanced early warning systems. That's his primary job. What it ends up spending most of its time doing is if you've got a radar that's looking out into space looking for missiles. There's fortunately not a lot of missiles passing through, but there's a lot of other objects that are passing through. And so this is one of the main sensors that we use to detect where space objects are, whether they be active satellites or just junk that's floating up there. And frankly, the vast majority of it is junk to keep track of it, junk that we have to make sure we don't run into, junk that we have to watch when it runs into each other, and track that throughout. So this is something that he really appreciated, something that had much more of an appeal to him, much more of a scientific appeal to him than missiles did. He was also coming from missiles. So he was a battle-hardened, battle-scarred, steely-eyed missile man coming into a completely different league. So this was like a major leaguer going into down into one of the minor leagues as far as it comes from evaluation and intensity of what it was. Because missiles is still remembering back in the strategic airlift or the strategic air command days, still have that kind of mentality of punish until you do it right. Space, fortunately, doesn't have that same mentality, but he was immediately able to take advantage of his instructor experience, his broad understanding of what was going on, and become kind of the lead for instruction while he was out there at Cape Cod. He also became, as a captain, an acting director of operations, so a job that's normally reserved for a major, for an 04. He was accomplishing in a much younger age than normally. So due to his success out there, he was the Company Grade Officer of the Year for the 21st Operations Group. So for those of you that aren't aware, it's an old system that's gone now, but 21st Operations Group is massive. It was basically everything that Space Command did that wasn't actually satellites. So all the ground systems, all the radars, all the space tracking capabilities were all housed within 21st Operations Group, and he won the Company Grade Officer of the Year for that entire group. That also got him the attention of the commander of 21st Operations Group. So JZ was destined to go, he had an assignment, or were you close to getting an assignment, to, I won't name the location because his exact quote was, it was going to be the black hole of mediocrity. So that was where he didn't want to go. So he instead took the plunge and interviewed to become the executive officer for that 21st Operations Group commander. So that was, at the time, Colonel Rock Miller. And JZ was accepted, went over to become the exec. So for those of you that aren't as familiar with how execs are, is you do everything for that commander. You could be doing a tasking one day, to writing up material for him to send out to the workforce, to dealing with angry phone calls from other members that are there. Coordinating trips, coordinating visits. It's unending. You're there to take care of that commander, make sure that commander is successful. And that commander is a high ops tempo. So Colonel Miller, just as General Miller is now, he is constantly moving, he was constantly changing, and JZ was able to keep up with him. Normally an exec job, because it is so exhausting, is a year long. JZ ended up covering it down for 2. So amazing work over there. And obviously was recognized a number of times out there as the 2013 General Lance Lord Award for Superior Space Leadership. So his reward for that amazing work, for busting his tail for 2 years as an exec, was go to Thule. So he was selected as the Director of Operations for Thule. So for those of you that aren't familiar, it's now called Pituffik. Did I pronounce that right? Pituffik? Pituffik. Thank you, Karen. At the time, it was called Thule Air Base. Another radar installation, this one kind of pointed north instead of out over the Atlantic seaboard. It also is basically a lunar base. So you were out in the north of the Arctic Circle, You are self-contained. It's for the most part, a completely unaccompanied tour. So for a year, he was out there running operations for the radar unit that is out there. He got to experience all there is to enjoy being north of the Arctic Circle. He got to see the northern lights from above, so basically they were to the south of him. Got to eat a narwhal, which I found kind of gross and disturbing because I consider them unicorns of the sea. He ate a polar bear before it could kill him, and he did get an opportunity to almost get frostbite after a broken down vehicle, but he did actually manage to survive. So after surviving up there in the north, his reward was to, as a lot of people after they finish their director of operations job, is to go and work on a staff. So he was going to go back to Peterson and be on the Air Force Command staff, or Air Force Space Command staff, and work from there. He was there for 37 days, and there was another director of operations at a different squadron that ended up getting relieved of duty. And they're like, you know what? We've got an award-winning director of operations right here sitting on staff. He hasn't gotten any duties, because let's face it, when you're the new guy, you're the first one to get traded if there's an opening, because you're the one that doesn't have a ton of responsibilities. So he got selected to go and take over as the DO for the 16th Space Control Squadron. So this is a completely different mission than what he's been doing before, right? He's been doing missiles, he's been doing radar and space domain awareness. He has not been doing anything that has to do with defensive space control. This is the only unit in the Air Force Space Command at the time that did that. So he had to learn completely new weapon systems, had to learn a completely new mission set, and of course he adapted beautifully to do that. Now, for those of you that aren't aware, their job was, it's called defensive space control. They aren't really defending as much as they are pointing out who's trying to interfere with our communications and our links, pointing out exactly who is trying to jam our ability to communicate with our aircraft, with our Navy vehicles, and then hopefully telling someone who does have bombs to go ahead and might want to look over there. That's a good spot to take out. It would ease our communications quite a bit. So it was also a worldwide mission. And here's where he really started to blossom into something that he was anticipating when he came into the military. Exercising, training, preparing teams to deploy, and then operating them in a deployed fashion. So he had crews that were out in the Middle East, and then he took out a lead to go and establish a new mission out in Indo-Pacific Command. During this period, he did have some time to serve in the desert, as many of us have. He was doing it right after Thule, though, so he is one of the few people to have experienced negative 72 degrees Fahrenheit and positive 140 degrees Fahrenheit within like 5 months of each other. So congratulations on getting the 200 degrees Celsius range within one. So going back to that deployment, this was kind of the first one, as you're looking through his records, of JZ getting that assignment of like, look, dude, I don't know how to do this. You're going to figure it out. And this was INDOPACOM wanted one of the 16th Space Control Squadron's capabilities out there in the field because tensions were ratcheting up with North Korea, and they had to be prepared to defend. What they didn't understand was what signal they wanted to defend, where they were going to let him put his unit. So he had to take it upon himself to sort that out for them. So he helped analyze all of the signals that PACOM might need in a potential conflict with North Korea. He got to identify a couple different places in the theater, and then they said, yeah, sounds great. Why don't you go see if you can go there? So now he has to go to all these different locations to people that are not anticipating a random Space Force guy to show up or Air Force guy to show up, and work out a bed-down location, support architectures for being able to get someone out there. He and his team did an absolutely amazing job. Of course, it didn't happen while he was out there. These things take a long time, but he did get an opportunity to go out into Okinawa and actually see the embedded location for something that he had set the wheels into motion of back when he was a DO out there. So he absolutely crushed this unit. They were deemed the best overall space control squadron back in 2017. And his reward this time was actually a worthy reward. He got to go to Air Command and Staff College. So that is our 1 year go to university and just dial it back a little bit. After years of deploying and being on duty, you get a chance to go and educate and think and talk to your peers and really understand how your part of what the Air Force does fits into the rest of the Air Force and figure out how what the Air Force does fits into the rest of the Joint Force. It's an absolutely amazing year. Everybody that gets an opportunity to go there in residence generally sings high praises of it. Don't have a ton of highlights from that point other than he starts looking for what he's going to do next. And there's a job opening for the Joint Staff, so the highest staff in the land, and space policy. Now, he looks at that one and says, yeah, no, I don't know enough about this, so now this is way outside of my league. I'm not going to try it. And then there was how do I describe him, a soulless ginger that came up to you and convinced you, this is Todd Benson, came up and interviewed him and said, no, this is the right guy. This is the one we want. And so he came into Joint Staff as soon as he finished up his time. And this is where I had an opportunity to finally meet the guy. So we are here on Joint Staff. It is an absolutely insane period. So this is, let's see, went back up the years. So what are we, 2019 at this point, right? So for those of you that are tracking, the president has said he wants a Space Force. We're still not sure yet if Congress is going to give him a Space Force, so the Joint Staff is trying to make sure that he also gets a Space Command. And that was what the job of J5 Space Policy was at that point, was standing up a Space Command and supporting the efforts to stand up a Space Force, as well as all the other jobs that we had going on. So we had a couple of new guys, some noobs showed up. So we had Dr. Townsend over here, we had Jay-Z show up as Todd Benson was off doing school or something like that. So it was Jim Mikes and I are holding on by our fingernails. There's tasks that are out there everywhere. We don't have time to help teach the new guys. I am a terrible sponsor. I did not have him set up for any of his email systems. I didn't have him set up for any of his meetings, and then I was running around doing 12 hours of work and wasn't able to get him going. So I apologize in afterwards that I was so bad at that one. So yeah, you're welcome. Been holding that guilt for a long time. Thanks for relieving my soul on that one. So I had actually forgotten what my first interaction with Jay-Z was, and because I was still a lieutenant colonel, he was actually coming in to replace me, and then I was going to pin on colonel and replace Todd as the director. And he'd asked like, "Dude, what can I do to help? What can I do to help?" I did not remember saying this. His exact quote was, "Why don't you call Goldfein and ask him where my service component is?" So at the time, the Chief of Staff of the Air Force had been tasked by Joint Staff to describe what the Air Force component to Space Command was going to be, and so it was a bit rude, and I never would have said that to an actual GO. So Jay-Z was like, "Got it. Call the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. I'm on it, sir," and then ran off. Fortunately, some people intercepted him before he could get that far. Because knowing him, he was probably heading straight for the glass doors to go and bang on the door. So he did manage to get it done. But that does give you an idea of the level that we were kind of flying through at that point. So we did settle down. Jay-Z and Brad got to speed. We were able to get Karen on board. And honestly, that is the finest team I've worked with throughout my entire career, an incredibly high-performing team. We took on a bunch of weird responsibilities, just random tasks that could come up. So it could be anything from and Jay-Z is the one that got the brunt of these unusual tasks. If we didn't know what was coming up, it was like, "Hey, Jay-Z, we don't really understand how this works. Can you go figure it out for us?" So we got to learn. What's that?
The exact quote was, "Jay-Z powers activate."
So he took on survivable and durable missile warning. We tried to figure out how to tell the Russians, "Please don't blow something up in space. That would be very bad for all of humanity." We had to fight with Department of Commerce on commercial remote sensing policy. France was setting up a space command and wanted someone to go out there and explain to them how to work with the Joint Force and NATO. So, all right, Jay-Z, go dust off some of your French and you're going to Paris. So. Also, this is the time period when COVID happened. And so the Pentagon, or the Joint Staff established a COVID task force, and this was our tribute to go over there and support, in which case they didn't care that he was a space guy. They saw the Air Force on his name tag, and they're like, "All right, dude, we got some C-130s in Honduras. We got to evacuate them." Was it Lingerie Models, or was it?
Lingerie football team.
Lingerie football team was down in Honduras. Don't ask. Somehow the Air Force was supposed to get him out of there. So, but honestly, it was an absolutely amazing time for us to see how the entire world interacted, how whole of government works. So before I talked about how space, he's figuring out how space fits into the Air Force, and then he's figuring out how the Air Force and the Space Force fit into the Joint Force, and now he's figuring out how does the Department of Defense fit into the broader whole of government efforts. They weren't all wins. We did get our butts handed to us by Department of Commerce, of all people, for some reason. We got told by a future CSAF, not the one that I was talking about, but this is General Ulvin, "I don't ever want to hear the words commercial remote sensing from any of you people ever again." I think that was mostly directed at Dr. Townsend, but the rest of us also took some backblast from it. So, and then he moved on from there, and he got the reward that we needed for him to get. He was selected for command. Squadron command is that ultimate position that you're targeting when you're an officer. That unit command is kind of the epitome of a career for the point when you are the closest to the people that are doing the work and the leadership. It's kind of that ideal spot. He was selected for the 19th Space Defense Squadron. And we all said, "What's that?" It doesn't exist. So Space Force had just stood up, and we were establishing a lot of new squadrons, and this was going to be one of them. This had previously been a detachment to the 18th Space Defense Squadron. It was going to turn on to the 19th, but unfortunately, bureaucracy works slower than the selection process did. So he was selected for an organization that didn't exist, and he was going to have to go and not just stand it up, but now he can't be the commander yet because it's not a squadron. So he has to sit there awkwardly as I think you were the assistant to the Delta commander. Was that what it was, Mark? Yeah, okay, yeah, he was just like, "Dude, he's the commander in waiting, we all know, just don't call him that." So he had to wait for the paperwork to catch up. This was a unique squadron, obviously. They picked the right guy to go ahead and take that one on. So in addition to taking on some of the environmental sensing missions, so essentially the weather satellite missions that were out in Suitland, Maryland, because they happened to just be the closest, not because their missions really aligned all that much. But they also were taking on a bunch of missions that hadn't really been fully done elsewhere. This is why they were standing up an entirely new unit. So one of them, the 18th Space Defense Squadron, their job is to manage the catalog, right? Understand where all those objects are. Remember we talked about the radars sensing where all the objects are, junk and real, or junk and active satellites. Well, that all has to go into a catalog, and you have to be able to analyze it and understand, hey, did something just move? Did something that is not there now there? Is something predicted to collide with something else, and do we need to tell someone to move? It's a lot of extra work. So the 18th was sending some of those responsibilities over to JZ's new unit, including helping to support that collision avoidance and safety, that flight safety mission for the rest of world. So not just helping out the U.S. assets, but helping to explain to other countries and commercial vendors, hey guys, we, the United States, have analyzed it, and we think you might want to just move a little bit to the left. It might save you. You might feel better in the past. Now, one of the ones that came up, remember one of the failings that we had was, well, I didn't list those as a failing. We tried to tell Russia, don't blow anything up in space. Russia would be Russians, and they blew something up in space. And so now there's a bunch of debris up there. And one of those pieces of debris was actually predicted to impact the Chinese space station. And so we realized we should probably tell the Chinese, and then we realized we don't know how to talk to the Chinese from here. We don't have like a 1-800, ChinaSat email or anything like that. So JZ had to go and develop it. How are we going to communicate flight safety? This is something that it kind of goes back to the Cold War. We used to try and have this with the Soviet Union back in the day of being able to have these open communication channels on things that weren't really conflict. It was more of a, can we just work together on a few things? So he helped coordinate that. He helped work with some of his old friends up in the policy office in the Pentagon, and then helped brief some of his other old friends in the National Security Council, and they got approval for a new process for us to be able to engage with China for flight safety matters. So the other kind of weird one that he took on was cislunar. So for those of you that aren't aware, cislunar is essentially all the orbits that are between Earth and the Moon, including if they're orbiting around the Moon. Not something that we really paid a lot of attention to before, because that was essentially the realm of scientific understanding, but there's a lot of activity going on out there right now. So China already had a number of satellites they'd sent out there. There was Russia and Japan also had some activities that were going out there. And we realized we don't know what they're doing. And we don't know when they leave moon or lunar orbit and come back to us. We don't have a great way of sensing them. We definitely don't have a great way of mapping where they're going to be. Remember all that catalog that I talked about? That's all Earth-centric. The math is hard, but it's not like that hard. But when you get to the Moon, things are different. It's rotating, it's orbiting around an object that is also orbiting around the Earth. The angles all end up getting weird, and even when you figure out the math of the classical dynamics of it moving around, the classical mechanics of it moving around, you didn't take into account the gravity of Jupiter and the gravity of the sun and all these other things that we just are not built to go ahead and take on. So again, I don't know, JZ, just go figure it out. So he established a coalition of the willing. I believe I called it, what was the exact phrase? Nerd Avengers Assemble was what it ended up being. So this is bringing together NASA, several of the universities, including Johns Hopkins and Purdue. I'd forgotten when I wrote down Purdue that was the guy that was that posted all the stuff about Nevelier when Russia went up and was threatening one of our satellites. So it's probably the same dude. Working with NSA, working with Air Force Research Laboratory, the Air Force Office of Scientific Research, and of course my beloved National Reconnaissance Office. Got them together, started working through how do we do this? How do we handle some of the difficult sensing problems? One of the challenges is this is a very dim object sitting right next to the second brightest object in the sky with the Moon. And then you also don't have sensing platforms in the right positions all the time. The Moon spends half its time in the southern hemisphere. So we're really ill-equipped to be able to handle that. They put together a proposal, ended up briefing out to the SecAF on the proposed way forward, and basically locked in about a $40 million investment. And ended up earning a Satellite Industry Association Leadership and Government Award and the U.S. Space Command's Innovation Team of the Year for all of their incredible work. So an amazing job as a commander out there in the 19th. And as you can see, somewhere around here we got the 19th, but also, in my opinion, the coolest patch in all of Space Force. So the Kraken attacking the Delta, that's fantastic. I absolutely love it. I still don't have one for myself. Just in case you're wondering. So now Squadron Command's done. He's going to move on. He's going to actually, he was trying to get out to go and teach young students again and Air for RTC. The Space Force stood up. And unfortunately, that did end up falling through as part of our transition. And he was fortunate to step up with Delta II and serve as a deputy Delta commander out there. I also spent the last few months working through a program called SkillBridge, which is an opportunity for future upcoming retirees to engage with industry and potentially even walk away with a position. He did. So as you can see from going through this history, is one of the leading experts in space domain awareness, and so that was recognized. And so he will be hopefully working for Parsons here in just a little bit. So about a month. So that's awesome. So yeah. So as you can see, Jay-Z has made an incredible mark on his service, right, and on all of us, right? All of us have had an opportunity to work with him, and to a fault, every single person that we reached out to said, "No, this guy is amazing. He was an incredible person to work with. He's one of the funniest people we've ever engaged with," and we're always laughing. It was usually with him, not always. Occasionally it was Adam, but most of the time it was with him. And my personal one is deep cuts. I've never run into somebody that had a deeper reservoir of just useless knowledge to pull up and then just secretly slip it into regular conversations. I think I caught a decent percentage of them. I do that myself, I admit. In fact, sometimes I would try throwing things out there to see if he would recognize it or not. I don't know how many I missed, because it's one of those where you just don't know the unknowns. And I know that I just went down a mark for him every time he referenced something, and I didn't immediately go, "Hey, that was Silverhawks. I recognize that one from an 80s cartoon show." So no. I deeply appreciate that one, but mostly I appreciate all the incredible work you've done, all the different mission sets you've touched, and all the different people that you've engaged with. You've had an absolutely incredible career, and I can't thank you enough for your service. I know it's not over. I know you'll continue to serve, but thank you so much for everything you've done, and hopefully you realize how big of a difference you've made to everybody that's here. So thank you, Jay-Z.
Thank you, Colonel Oakes. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Agrawal will now present the Meritorious Service Medal to Lieutenant Colonel Smith. Please rise for the presentation of the Meritorious Service Medal. This is the citation to accompany the award for the Meritorious Service Medal, 4th Oak Leaf Cluster, to Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Z. Smith. Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Z. Smith distinguished himself in the performance of outstanding service in the United States as Deputy Commander, Space Delta II, Peterson Space Force Base, Colorado. During this time, Colonel Smith led an 11-month planning effort with 4 interagency organizations to provide conjunction assessment and safety of Polaris Dawn, the nation's first private human spaceflight mission. Additionally, he coordinated with 2 field commands and the Department of Commerce to formulate a novel disposal solution of a malfunctioning weather satellite. These efforts mitigated collision risk to other satellites, allowed its $565 million replacement satellite to begin checkout operations, and cemented Colonel Smith as Mission Delta II's nomination for the William T. Pecura Award for Outstanding Contributions to Remote Sensing. Finally, he co-led a discussion panel for Pennsylvania's Showcase for Commerce with the chief scientist of the Space Force, which educated 467 industry and academia partners on future operational considerations and earned personal thanks from both Pennsylvania senators. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Colonel Smith reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Space Force. That's you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Oakes will now retire Lieutenant Colonel Smith. Please remain standing for the reading of the retirement order.
What's the order?
Special Order Alpha Charlie 019117, effective 31 July 2025. You are relieved from active duty, organization, and station of assignment, retired effective 1st of August 2025 per AFI 36-3203 in grade of Lieutenant Colonel. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, Colonel Oakes will present Lieutenant Colonel Smith the Certificate of Retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America, which honors Lieutenant Colonel Smith's 20 years of dedicated service. It reads, "To all who shall see these presents, greetings. This is to certify that Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Z. Smith, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Space Force on the first day of August, 2025, signed General Chance B. Salzman, Chief of Space Operations, United States Space Force." Lieutenant Colonel Smith has also received a certificate of appreciation from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force. It reads, "I am proud to join your friends and family in congratulating you on your retirement from the United States Space Force. The achievements and contributions you have made throughout your career are indicative of the core values of our great service. Your retirement is well-deserved, but your selfless contributions will be sorely missed. On behalf of all guardians, thank you for your faithful and devoted service to our nation. As this chapter in your life closes and a new one begins, I hope the years ahead are filled with more great memories and continued success." Signed, Chief Master Sergeant John F. Benavenia, Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force. At this time, I would like to invite Lieutenant Colonel Smith's wife, Mrs. Allison Smith, to come forward to pin on his retirement pin and remain on stage to receive certificates of appreciation. At this time, Lieutenant Colonel Smith's wife, Allison Smith, will now be presented with a certificate of appreciation from the Chief of Space Operations of the United States Space Force, which reads, "In grateful appreciation, the United States Space Force presents this certificate of recognition to Mrs. Allison V. Smith for the commitment and numerous contributions that made positive impacts to the nation's defense. Thank you for the support which gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service." Signed, General Chance B. Salzman, Chief of Space Operations, United States Space Force. Mrs. Smith has also received a certificate of appreciation from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force. It reads, "On behalf of all Space Force guardians and their families, the Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force presents this certificate of appreciation to Mrs. Allison V. Smith. I join your spouse, family, and friends in thanking you for the numerous contributions and sacrifices you made in support of our United States Space Force. Your dedication gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service in defense of our nation." Signed, Chief Master Sergeant John F. Benavenia, Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force. Thank you, Mrs. Smith and Colonel Oakes. You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to present to you Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Z. Smith, United States Space Force, retired.
Hi, everyone. It's me, the protagonist. Thanks for coming. I appreciate all your support. So I've probably been looking forward to this day since May 2005. And in truth, some days I didn't think it would ever come. And in some regards, I'm surprised to see myself up here. And my guess, many of you are also surprised to see me here too. And I know at least Mr. Weishart is in attendance to just make sure I actually leave. So after 20 years in uniform and 4 years of ROTC training to join the Air Force, it's a strange and powerful thing to say I'm retiring from the military. These words carry weight, and not just for me, but everyone here and in this room. I joined ROTC only a month after my 18th birthday. My family got me off to a great start, and the military gave me, sorry, I'm getting a message. Jim, stop messaging me. My family got me off to a good start, but the military gave me a solid support network and a solid foundation. one built on integrity, discipline, service, duty, and excellence. Those are the values that shape me, and I'm grateful for the opportunity I've been given. As I step into civilian life, I'm reminded of something that echoes my faith. In 2 Corinthians 5:17, the Apostle Paul wrote, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he's a new creation. The old has passed away, and behold, the new has come." That verse captures how I'm feeling today. Retiring from the military isn't just an ending, it's the beginning of a new life and a refined purpose. Just as Christian life means leaving behind an old life marked by sin, self-reliance, and brokenness, stepping out of uniform means embracing a new mission and a new calling. Every uniformed member in attendance answered the nation's call, many of us inspired by the events of September 11th, 2001. When our country cried out, "Who will I send?" we stood together and declared, "Here I am, send us." After 20 years of service, my military mission is complete, but my purpose endures, rooted in integrity, excellence, and service. As I retire from the structured yet chaotic rhythm of military life and step into the unknown terrain of civilian life, I do so with anticipation and faith. The transition isn't an ending, but a new beginning, a chance to reflect and ask, what's my next calling and how can I best serve? Guided by grace and empowered by purpose, I look forward to discovering what lies ahead and continuing a life of meaningful impact. And that's the point I'm most excited about. Because while my mission may change, my purpose to serve, to lead, and to love has not changed. Because I'm so very thankful for all of you, well, most of you. The community has some of the finest men and women the U.S. has to offer. I am grateful for your support throughout the years and your support today. I'm thankful for the countless opportunities, the relationships I've made, the moments and lessons that have refined me. So with that in mind, I'd like to give thanks to the Color Guard. Thank you very much. If you are still here, I think you may have taken off. They're actually it's a junior Navy ROTC unit in Mesa Ridge High School here in Colorado Springs. I think they did a fantastic job. So if they're here, can you please give them a round of applause? To Springs Lighthouse Church, thanks for the use of your facility, your personnel, the AV equipment. The venue is well suited for the number of guests we have, the presentations, and ideally the food if that's showed up. So thank you very much to Springs Lighthouse Church. To the ceremony helpers, this is Mr. Chris Fisher's first ceremony of any kind. He graciously volunteered to narrate, and I think he did a fantastic job. Thank you to the proffer, Sergeant Siwa, for making the wheels behind the scene go smoothly. For example, I forgot this dangly part, and he was able to get it while the ceremony was ongoing, so thank you very much. Thank you for the ushers for helping people find this place. It's a great venue, but it is literally buried, so thanks to the ushers. And then lastly, thanks to the Thunderbirds for performing the flyover at my retirement. I'm happy I could share their talents with the Air Force Academy as they graduate today. To Colonel Oakes, thank you for putting up with me with the 2 years at the Pentagon. Thank you for agreeing to officiate the ceremony. I think you did a fantastic job. Colonel Oakes has been one of the most influential leaders in my career. His guidance, leadership, wit, and ability to absorb, digest, and explain the Pentagon's bureaucracy radically changed my view on life and leadership. In the downtimes, he mentioned some of this, but we used to reminisce about some of the cool 80s toys that were available in the 1980s. He would tell me of his fond memories of He-Man, Thundercats, and Silverhawks, but nothing captured his attention more than G.I. Joe. Next slide, please. So the G.I. Joe carrier was the gold standard of 80s children's toys. It measured 7.5 feet by 3 feet wide by 3 feet deep. And so, sir, I wasn't able to get you the last Colonel Oakes thinks he's done. So Colonel Oakes also shared with me some of the earlier, finer moments of his OCD. He loved the toys, but really loved the personnel files on the back of the boxes. He used to tell me that he would spend hours reading them, organizing them by name. then reorganizing them by position, height, weight, faction, eye color, you name it. So, sir, with that in mind, this is a G.I. Joe omnibus that has every toy ever made with the appropriate filing cards for the vehicle. Okay, that's actually So today is the 29th of May, 2025. Colonel Oakes has obviously officiated my ceremony. He also officiated my ceremony for my promotion to Lieutenant Colonel on the 29th of May, 2020. Yet there's something else significant about the 29th of May to Colonel Oakes. Something that happened in the 70s and traditionally involving an obstetrician. So he personally asked me if I would have the group sing happy birthday to him. So if you'd please join me. Now that you have the key. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Colonel Oakes. Happy birthday to you. To Allison. I've been very blessed with a loving and, more importantly, a very patient wife. She's been a blessing in all regards to my service and made this possible. You know what an obnoxious turd I can be, and she's borne the brunt of most of it. We've been married for 15 years. Thank you for the slide. We've been married 15 years. She's endured 2 deployments, several overseas trips, and countless TDYs. So in 2015, when I was deploying to the Middle East, some of the service members on my team got a chance to go beyond security and go to the gate to see off the departing military members. So when my flight boarded and I was about to leave for 6 months, we said goodbye by shaking hands. So I'd like to offer you another firm handshake. Slide, please. To my parents. That's a picture of my mom and dad about the age I am now. So first, I'm very sorry I turned you from that into this. I wanted to tell a quick story about my parents. In 2013, they'd been asking for a Blu-ray player for a few months. And I was like, what sounds like a good idea to me is to get them a PlayStation 3. It gives them the opportunity to use it as a Blu-ray player, use the internet to download some applications for streaming, and maybe if they wanted to, play Crash Bandicoot or whatever. So it's 2013, and my dad is calling me that he can't get Netflix to work. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna help them when I'm home in a couple of months, troubleshoot Netflix. So now I'm there and I'm going through everything I know how to do. I've uninstalled the app, I've reinstalled it, I've checked the internet connection, I've set the clock, I've done everything. I'm about 30 minutes in and Allison comes walking in and goes, "Do you subscribe to Netflix?" My dad responds, "We don't have Netflix." To which I was able to point him why Netflix was not working. So with that story in mind, you can see I typically try my best not to listen to my dad. However, it was his idea to do ROTC, and well, here we are now. My parents have always been supportive and pushed me into college when all I wanted to do was be a loser that lived at home. So thank you very much for your support, guidance, and for everything you've done. I love you too. Your gift is in the envelope on your seat. Slide, please. To my siblings, my brother didn't even show up. Oh, great. My brother's right there. Yeah, that's why I didn't think you were here. So, to my siblings, cousins, and extended family, to those people in person, Tiff, Liebert, Nathan, Katie, thanks for your support through the 42-ish years. I appreciate everything you've done. I think I just saw you get your gift. The picture I obviously look good in any picture. So I found one where Tiff and Nathan also looked good. That's us at our cousin Brandon's wedding. Also pictured, that's Katie with Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins, which is super cool. They were hanging out at the Cincinnati Zoo. And if anybody knows Liebert, there are no such things as pictures of Liebert on the internet. So I commissioned a police sketch to demonstrate his likeness. I've known Liebert for about 30 years. He took me to a concert in 2002, when he was relatively new to the family. We were having a good time, and he actually even arranged for us to meet the band afterwards. However, during the concert, I got hit in the face and needed 13 stitches to close the wound. So we had to ditch meeting the band in order for Liebert to find me an emergency room, not in downtown Cincinnati, where I wouldn't be triaged behind gunshot wounds and stab victims. So I remember him being a tad nervous to then bring me back home and tell my parents that he hadn't been part of the family yet and gotten their son injured on this first time out. But it all worked. So Liebert, welcome to the family. You're welcome for your public embarrassment. And Liebert also told me he was going to wear sweatpants and a Corn Band t-shirt to this, so it looks like his wife got to him. To my family listening in virtually, Uncle Daryl, Brandon, Ann, Sean, Katie, Kate, Andy, Lily, both Aunt Barbs, Larry, Ken, Sherry, Rich, Carol, Jean, Jim, Amanda, Jason, Amber, Jenny, Jared, and their plethora of children. You've been great and extremely welcoming throughout, and you've always been supportive. No one is a self-made man, and I've been able to get this far thanks to your support. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing most of you in about 2 months. To Kyla and Lincoln. Slide, please. So, my brother and his wife and kids live in Colorado, and that's why they're here supporting me today. So, Lincoln and Kyla, I'm surprised how good you've been. Thank you for not causing a scene. You've been very patient. What you see on here is because Nathan and Katie and I all live in the same area, we decided to go hang out in the Wings of Colorado Museum. We had a great time, but as the event ended, we had to walk by the gift shop, where my nephew, Lincoln, made eyes with a Dr. Pepper, and that is all he wanted in the world was a Dr. Pepper. So pictured here is me, my brother, and Kyla having a great time at the museum with Lincoln in the window pining over a Dr. Pepper, and Katie, his mom, inside buying said Dr. Pepper. So, Lincoln, thank you very much. Got you, Dr. Pepper. You've been very, very well behaved. Thank you very much. Also, these Pokemon cards just came out on Tuesday, and I had to beat off a bunch of unwatched nerds to make sure you get To my in-laws, Jim and Kathy, I've been very blessed with a loving and generous pair of in-laws. They welcomed me from day one and have supported me taking their daughter to very weird places. Pictured here are Jim and Kathy on their 50th wedding anniversary. They were kind enough to invite their kids, their son-in-law, and daughter-in-law to Disney World to celebrate with them. During their courtship in the 1960s, they were into the music of the time, like Frankie Valli, the Jackson 5, the Mamas and the Papas. Jim had just purchased his first record ever, and he let his girlfriend at the time, Kathy, borrow it. Unfortunately, tragedy struck. She left the record in the car on a particularly hot day, and it melted. Fortunately, I was just stationed in King George, Virginia, which is immune to the passage of time, and they had one of those records for sale. Slide, please. To the Foxes. I met Crystal and Andrew in Vandenberg in 2005. They're probably my oldest and closest friends that I've made as an adult. They've helped me so much over the years, and I'd like to thank them publicly. I'd like to thank them now by publicly embarrassing them. On the top left, you'll see a picture of Crystal and I in 2006. I had volunteered to be the Malmstrom Easter Bunny that year. The picture is twofold. One, it establishes the nostalgic element that I'm going for in the promotion. And more importantly, it establishes that I'm the man in the bunny costume. On the bottom left, you'll see a picture of Andrew sitting on my lap while he makes an 8-year-old girl wait her turn to see the Easter Bunny. I'd like to tell 2 more stories. Andrew and I discovered early on that we were going bald and challenged each other to a bald off. Basically, whoever went bald first lost. So it's true, Andrew was the winner. On the bottom right, you can see I didn't have a chance. I've had the same hairline since I was a baby. So thank you, Mom. On the upper right, you'll see what Andrew would look like as Mickey Mouse. Yesterday was also Crystal and Andrew's 20th wedding anniversary, so congrats to both of you. Children, earmuffs. So in their first anniversary, Andrew went out and got super drunk on apple pucker. And as we know, the 20th anniversary is the apple pucker anniversary. Corbin, Wyatt, and Piper, thank you very much for also being patient during this boring ceremony. Corbin, unfortunately, I couldn't get you your plutonium for your experiments, but you have Pokemon cards nonetheless. Slide, please. To the group, specifically the man on the left. That is Jeff Weishart, Mr. Jeff Weishart. I first started working with Mr. Weishart in 2014 when I was the 21st Operations Group. About once a week, I'd gotten into the habit of taking lunch orders for the office and routinely forgot to include Mr. Weishart. I addressed this faux pas in my farewell gift to him when I left the 21 Operations Group by giving him a Subway gift card that purposely had no money on it. I've decided to make it up to you now by having Chief Burkhead lead an icebreaker for the group, starting with you. I'm teasing, of course. To everyone else, I've had assignments with all of you. To those of you with whom I've served, thank you. You've shown me what honor, service, and leadership looks like. There's a reason I thought of you when I extended an invitation. Despite not being addressed by name, you've been a vital part of the unified diversity of talents that function as one body defending this nation. I'm encouraged by every part here. Every part is not independent of another, but needs one another. You're irreplaceable, indispensable, and incredible, and I thank you very much. I have on display the going away gifts and decorations I've received throughout my career. To me, these represent the men and women I've served with over time. So if I have a gift out from an assignment I've served with you, thank you for your support. To those online, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for attending as your schedule allowed. It means a lot that you took time out of your day to finally see me off and ensure I'm out of your hair. Slide. So what's next? As I close this chapter, I don't see a void and I don't feel loss. I see a new horizon and a new permanent change of station. I'm not losing my purpose, I'm gaining a new mission. I'm on terminal leave and I plan to enjoy myself for a bit. In the short term, Allison and I are going for a short trip through Kansas next week. I'm gonna hit my favorite restaurant in the whole world, the Hickory Hut. You should go, it's incredible. And then we're going to the Dwight D. Eisenhower Library in Abilene, Kansas on the 81st anniversary of the D-Day Normandy landings. For the long term, I'm staying in Colorado Springs and I'll be working for the Parson Corporation. Joel, Willie, Dan, Jake, and Dustin, I'm excited to work with you guys and thank you for coming. Next slide, please. So this is the conclusion of the ceremony and of my military career. Please stay for a reception immediately after the Air Force songs. Slide, please. That's right, we're doing both of them. I served in both, you're singing both. We'll have pulled pork, baked beans, and bird dog barbecue, cake, soft drinks, and water. All I ask is that you please let the children eat first. Colonel Oakes, would you please join me on stage? Chris, please take us home.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the formal portion of today's event. Thank you all for joining us for Lieutenant Colonel Moore's retirement ceremony. Following the departure of the official party, Lieutenant Colonel Retired Smith will hold a receiving line at the back, followed by a reception catered by Bird Dog Barbecue. Please stand for the playing of the Air Force song, the Space Force song, and the departure of the official party.
We're actually going to sing it.
Yeah, it's a cappella. The CD is not working.
So, off we go into the wild blue yonder, flying high into the sky. Here they come to meet our thunder, and boys, give it a gun. Give it a gun! Hey! And we dive, spouting our flames from under, off with one hell of a roar. We live in faith, we're down in faith. Hey, nothing will stop the U.S. Air Force. Guardians beyond the blue, the invisible front line, war fighters brave and true, so true, boldly reaching into space. There's no limit to our sky, standing guard night and day, we're the Space Force from on high. Thank you, everyone.